What's happening in Pop Culture Universe? This is another episode review of the Bad Batch series, which drops on Disney Plus. This is episode 14, War Mantle. I'll be one of your hosts on this episode. My name is Bogz with my girl Soul. How are you today, Soul?
Doing good, having a good weekend. Just got back from Orlando. I also entered Miami one. I was there at the home game, so I'm super happy. But now it's time for Star Wars with my favorite person to talk Star Wars with.
Yes, ma'am. So kind of back to business with this episode. So it picked up from basically telling us the transition from the Republic to the Empire, which is the main USP of the series. I feel it's also gave us Gregor, in his first few scenes, and just showing us how Palpatine is moving things forward, phasing out clone troopers and kind of bringing in stormtroopers. I know it was also nice to see a lot of the designs of these stormtroopers. If anyone doesn't know who's watching it, these were early Ralph McQuarrie designs and concept art in terms of the concept design of the original kind of Star Wars designs with George Lucas. So they've used that art design in this episode, with some of the stormtroopers and stuff. So that was a kind of nice callback. But what about you? What are your overall episodes and return to form for the Bad Batch?
I was so excited that we finally we're moving the story forward because I know last
Mm.
week we were a little disappointed and we're like, man, there's only 4 episodes left. You're giving this in one of our last 4 episodes. This episode today was the episodes I was looking for at the end of this season. Hopefully, we'll get another season too. But yeah, it was very much like a return to form. You get to see War Mantle was this little itty bitty thing that was said in Rogue One. It was a little reference there, and they took it and they're now giving us Star Wars nerds that love to know exactly what every little thing means, and they're showing us what War Mantle is, Project War Mantle, and the fact that we had it said a little bit earlier this season. Now we have a full episode that's the title name, and we're really seeing. And I was looking, I was like, are those stormtroopers? Like that was my first thought. I was like, those aren't clone troopers. Those are
Mm.
stormtroopers. And so
Mm-hmm.
it was an exciting moment. And I was watching it with my niece, and she was like, me and my older brother, like we both had like such big smiles on our face. And like, what's going on, Thea? It goes, those are stormtroopers, Mama. Like,
Wow.
so we were having a good, fun time watching the show.
Yeah. Um, that's a good reaction for stormtroopers, right? But the episode starts with Gregor kind of running from some hounds or some kind of dogs, and he gets captured by the Empire. Once he's captured, we kind of return to the Bad Batch, who are contacted by Rex, who basically explains to them he needs their help to get an old friend out of trouble. Obviously, referring to Gregor, who's captured obviously on I think it's called pronounced Darrow or Doro, however you pronounce it, the planet. And they kind of have a discussion. Tech states that on Dara there's no settlements, but we know from seeing the previous scene that there's some kind of imperial base on there, but they believe it's kind of uninhabited planet. So Tech explains that they're on a mission with Sid currently, so they can't divert from that. But kind of Omega kind of speaks up as she does throughout the series and kind of gives them a pep talk about saving everyone and doing the right thing. At this point, I'll be honest, I feel like she does it almost too much, to the point where it's like it's every episode. Like they're hunters and hunters in it got a dilemma as the leader. And, she's always saying, "Oh, I think you should do this because it's the right thing." I feel like they do it a little too much. So, and then we kind of jump to Kamino, which I'll come to in a second. But your thoughts are on the opening of the scene. Obviously, seeing Gregor because he's long awaited. Obviously, we see him in the Clone Wars series, and we see him in Rebels as an older clone, and we don't really know the in between journey there. So this is a start of that story. So overall thoughts on the episode, seeing him, and of course the whole discussions with Sid and the rest of the Bad Batch about helping Gregor on Daru.
Yeah, it's always nice to see Gregor and like just any of the clones that are with Rex that we see later in Rebels. But it was one of those moments too. I was just like, okay, where is he at chip wise? Because he's been working with the Empire. There, he trained these stormtroopers basically, and so I was just like, okay, I wonder where exactly he went from not following orders. So I still got questions about chips
Yeah.
and when chips are taken out, and what stormtroopers that decided or what clone troopers decided not to like follow Order 66 and when
Hmm.
that, so like those still are questions that are out in the open.
Very
And then
fair questions. Yeah.
also with Omega, you have, I think I'm not getting annoyed with her being the moral center and being the one that says, let's do the right thing. Because I kind of realized in the middle of this episode, especially watching it with my niece, I was just like, she's the one for the little kids. She's the one that like the little kids learn their lessons from. Where when you watch cartoons that are meant for kids, every episode has a lesson that the kid follows and they learn it over and over again in multiple episodes of the same TV program. So I felt like, oh, this is the part for the kids to be like, hey, remember, always do the right thing. So that part's not for us.
Yeah. So I don't know, just like at the start I was a bit unsure about her, but then I kind of grew to really like her. Character arcs, story arcs. She's like a unique person in this side of the story in terms of Star Wars. And then now I just feel like she's getting a little annoying. Last couple of episodes, so hopefully that swings back round again, but we'll see. And then we kind of jump to Camino, where we see Rampart and Crosshair. It feels like we haven't been on Camino for quite a while now, so I was kind of glad. Yeah, I was kind of glad they're back now. Rampart basically explains to Crosshair that he wants every clone immobilized now, and they're going to start disposing of the Caminos when the time is right. Kaminoans, sorry, when the time is right. So then we cut to kind of Nala Se escorting some young clones. So this is again, not the first time we see her kind of looking after these youngsters, like she does with Omega. And then Lama Su comes in and speaks to Nala Se, explains that the Empire has cut all contracts with them now, so they've cut all ties with them. So basically, they need to have a plan to leave Camino for their survival, to survive, to avoid extinction, and to survive as a race. Basically, the Empire has officially moved on from having them or being their clients. So Lama Su basically expects the Empire to turn on them at some point. They kind of have a discussion about that. We cut back to the Bad Batch, who land on Daro, and they use kind of Hunter's abilities to basically hunt for Gregor. They notice something inside of some kind of mountain, and then they see that there's clone troopers in there. They have updated armors, or they think it's clone troopers, but it's really stormtroopers. And we see all the different designs of the Ralph McQuarrie art, concept art and stuff. So seeing the different visors and the early kind of look of stormtroopers, I thought was super cool and interesting. So, which obviously you guys geeked out at in down there in Miami. So overall thoughts on the scenes on Camino with Nala Se and Lama Su and Rampart and Crosshair, and of course seeing the stormtroopers, which you already covered. But if you want to give any final thoughts on them.
Yeah, it was one of those moments of like, oh man, I wish we spent more time with the Kaminoans this season, because there has to be a point where they realize like the Empire is going to lead to their demise. Yeah. And obviously we don't see them later on in future Star Wars stuff, so we really need to find where exactly they end, why the cloning with them doesn't really happen. We also saw a Camino patch on in Mandalorian, so kind of
Dr.
Like
Pershing, is it?
Yeah, Pershing, yeah. So it's one of those where we don't know much about what happens to them after the prequel trilogy, and after obviously this show is going out a little bit more, but I still don't think we've spent enough time with them, because it's one of those just like, okay, what exactly is their dealings with the Empire? Now the contracts are over. What does that mean for them? Obviously, we see later, like, oh, we only need someone who can clone. We don't need a politician. We get that later on in this episode. And so it's really like, what are the Empire's plans with the Kaminoans? What are the Kaminoans' plans? They obviously have a plan with Omega and other things, and we don't know that yet. And there's only so few episodes left, and we barely spent any time on Kamino.
Yeah, and then as they enter the facility, obviously where they see the stormtroopers, we hear a few like the music changes to kind of older or original trilogy Imperial marches and like just regular themes and just sound bites that we're used to hearing around stormtroopers, which I thought was really nice. And so yeah, it just, and throughout these scenes, you know, in this kind of mountain with all the different stormtroopers, with the Bad Batch kind of hunting or kind of sneaking in the building, I just thought the animation was great, the graphics are great, the music is great. So that's improved every episode. That's fantastic. It's just some of the story arc, you know, in the last couple of episodes has dipped, but that stuff, you know, the kind of artistry of the episode is beautiful. And then Tech arrives, also reveals that these are not clone troopers. They're in fact, I think they're called 1,000 TK troopers. Sorry, there's 1,000 TK troopers, which are stormtroopers, and there's 50 clone troopers there on this base. So and they're kind of surprised how many is there, which is a bit weird because it's supposed to be uninhabited. So I just thought, why is there so many there? But anyway, so from then they discover Gregor, who's in his cell, the clone. So from this, like, are the clone commanders there to train these people, to train the stormtroopers? You would think, because obviously they're senior figures and they're soldiers, and these guys are, you know, not. Let's just say so. Tech then sets off the alarm. They run into a few clone troopers. Okay, they kind of handle them, and then stormtroopers. They remove their helmets, and they see that they're the kind of the replacements, or they are not clones. And they establish that, and they have some dialogue that they're being replaced by regular humans from all over the kind of galaxy. And these are people. Some people are volunteering, some people are not, of course, who are swearing their allegiance. And this just kind of further develops the lore of how they obtain these. You know, we see in The Force Awakens how they obtained Finn. They're taken from as children. So this is from changing from the Republic to the Empire, how they obtain their resources, you know, through dictatorship, through force, through overtaking planets and systems, and kind of restraining people and giving them kind of no choices. And yeah, it's like the cruelty of all that, and how they obtain, you know, it seems like they need a new army, not a kind of old army, which is a Republic, you know, which belongs to the Republic, like an old established army, which belongs to them. They need, you know, a new force to enact their kind of dictatorship. So I found all that stuff really interesting. But yeah, how about you? Overall thoughts on, you know, seeing all these the music changes with the stormtroopers, and then seeing what's going on when their helmets removed and they're just regular humans, and what are your thoughts on them clone troopers being phased out and replaced by humans, and how they obtain these humans as well?
So it really shows how evil the Empire is, of the fact that, okay, here's the people you're going to train, and they end up being your replacements, and then they're going to end up just murdering you after that. So you're the one working, because the clones, if nothing else, they're very efficient, they're very militarized, and so they can teach these humans how to become that, and then there's no more use for them. What I think is that the Empire, and here's my theory, is that some of the people didn't follow Order 66. We kind of see that throughout this season already. Gregor, we see that. Hauser, we don't know what's up with his chip. And so I think that there was taking care of these clones, making sure that their chip is fully activated all the time. It probably is a hassle for them. So it's easier to just deal with regular humans who are going to be loyal to the Empire. So that's kind of my theory out there, is why they're switching over to humans, to stormtroopers. And so that's what I have out there. I'm not exactly sure, but that's where my mind's going.
The only thing they mentioned well, I'm not sure how many episodes it was now, where I think when Tarkin was in it, that it is way cheaper to have humans as soldiers, rather than contracted soldiers that have been bred, via cloning and stuff. So that's more expensive than just having regular people who maybe their planet they've just took over, or they have to swear allegiance to them for their safety, that kind of thing. So, and that was some of my favorite parts
I
of the
don't
episode
think
where
it could be just a money thing, though, right?
oh yeah, some people,
Yeah.
like just work for the empire, because they believe it's the right thing, or so many different reasons. I'm just giving examples, but what I'm saying is off the back of what Gregor explained, and saying that the clones belong to the Republic. They want to move forward with this new empire and an army that isn't connected to the past, but to kind of Palpatine's future and his kind of envisionment of the future, and their kind of vast numbers that they have with just having regular people. With clones, you have a limited amount of people, but obviously with regular people, it's unlimited pretty much. And then Gregor
I was thinking they'd be integrated originally, but I think just getting completely rid of the clones, I think there has to be something with their chip, or there's the maintenance of the clones, because they're still useful. So
right.
it would be where you would think that maybe they'd keep both, but there's a reason why they want to completely get rid of the clones, and I don't think it's just a money thing, because they already own these clones that they already have. So obviously making new clones is going to be more expensive, and that's why they don't want to do that part. But the ones that they already have, there's a reasoning other than just the loyalty part. And that's where I'm trying to figure out exactly where they're going.
Right. Fair enough. And then from that point, Gregor is then shot / stunned. And he also reveals why he was there is because he's been kept, because he was asked to train these new troopers, and he established what was going on is for kind of dictatorial purposes, and he established what was going on here, for kind of grand army, or for these vast numbers, or kind of Palpatine's vision, let's say. So he kind of refused to, and he was kind of arrested and put in his cell. So he kind of rebelled against kind of instructions that he was given. So that's why he was locked up. So we see kind of a scene where the Bad Batch try and escape with Gregor, and kind of Omega's piloting a ship with Wrecker to kind of meet the Bad Batch to pick them up. Clearly she's been practicing or using her, developing her piloting skills. Did look a little weird, her, in the ship and stuff. But anyway, they do make it off planet. Hunter then falls as they were leaving off planet, and then orders the kind of others to leave, which is obviously a hard decision for both parties, and is then kind of captured by the Empire. We cut to Rampart, who's on Kamino, tells Lamassu, who's in case anyone isn't sure, is the Prime Minister of Kamino, tells Nala Se, who's like a scientist, I guess, that or I think she's like a medic officer or something. But Rampart explains that she's Nala Se is trying to escort medical kind of staff off world, and they've caught her doing so. They take her. They kind of take Nala Se into work for the Empire, or they explain that she's going to be used to work for the Empire, and then obviously not killing her off. That was first thing. Secondly, it was kind of what else has she done there? What else has she cloned? Was this the early stages of Palpatine being cloned, or is this is it got to do something with Dr. Pershing? Maybe because he has kind of a bit of a soft spot for Grogu. And obviously, Nala Se has a soft spot for for kids, seemingly, with these clone troopers or clone soldiers, kids, whatever, and Omega as well. So I thought maybe there's a potential connection there. And then the kind of troopers are kind of left with Lama Su, and the kind of doors closed, so we don't know what happens. We don't hear any gunfire or any blaster fire. So your thoughts, first of all, on Gregor being locked up, captured, the reason why he's in it, so of course, Omega piloting, which is again a bit weird. And then we see Rampart with Nalase and Lama Su, and taking Nalase away to be some kind of scientist within the Empire. So yeah, your thoughts on all them scenes, please.
When Omega was piloting, I was like, "Oh, where'd she learn that?" It was like...
From a quick chat with Hera, I guess, maybe.
Right. We know that she was learning, and there was the chat with Hera going, "Oh, I can't. Tech won't allow me to pilot until I learn every single part of the ship." So I guess she's learned every single part of the ship because now she's piloting. That was off screen, but I guess there we go.
Sure, maybe.
Sure, it works. I think that Lama Su's dead. Like, I know we didn't hear a gunfire, but I think she's, because just the line of, we don't need a politician, we need a scientist kind of part. Like, and so that part, I was just like, oh, she's dead. Even if they probably might not have killed her there, but she's going to die, if nothing else, at the very least. But I think she's dead. I feel it. But yeah, it's one of those, just like, we caught you doing this, but we see your value, and now your choice is to join us, and probably either join us or die, kind of thing. And so that's where she's at. And I think her wanting to protect the smaller clones and to protect Omega, she's probably going to start working with them. She's probably going to be the behind the scenes person that's working for them, but not really, like Jyn Erso's dad, kind of working for the Empire, but not really making
like contract
the Death Star, but making that flaw in the Death Star to make sure that it can come down. So I feel like that's probably going to be where Nalase is at, is that she's going to help them, but she's going to make some flaw that is going to be able to be used by the rebels or by Bad Batch or by whoever to fight them.
Possibly, yeah. She seems that kind of kind-hearted nature, is like, yeah, you're not fully, like, even if they are being used, potentially do something, like you say, like for the greater good somehow, some way.
Yeah.
But the episode ends with Hunter and is left in his cell, and Crosshair kind of shows up, and then they don't obviously finish the conversation. It cuts, but you kind of think, why is he talking to him? Maybe I thought maybe his chip's damaged from being a part of that blaster fire from that back end of that ship. It seems like anyone who kind of takes a hit on the head or something along those lines, their chip could potentially be damaged. So maybe it's because of that, or maybe there's a twist and he's going to help the Bad Batch, or I don't know. We'll see in the next coming episodes. And just to wrap up then, my predictions or on what's to come potentially, I think Rex will be in the next episode. He'll be involved somehow to save the day or save Hunter or something along them lines. I think we'll see Rex with Gregor, that kind of link up there. I think Hunter may die in the next few episodes. So I think because it's a way to lift up and excel Omega storyline, him being the kind of, mentor figure, leader of the Bad Batch, her kind of learning the skills with him. I just think for her storyline, I think that's maybe a necessary thing. And it's something that Star Wars do, right, all the time. So, and perhaps kind of toughen her up a little bit and help her grow up, being without a leader, that kind of thing. And I think as well, we'll see like the troopers that you mentioned, like Hauser, Gregor, these people who seem to be defiant about the chip and stuff, them kind of team up and rise against the Empire somehow, some way, or do something, go on some kind of mission together, maybe with Rex, that kind of thing, like some kind of the Bad Batch, of course. And then perhaps opposite to that, I know I've said it a few times, but someone like Vader turns up or makes an appearance maybe in the last episode, that kind of thing. So I'm expecting big things in these last few episodes. So that are my overall thoughts. or predictions on that. So how about you? So obviously in the ending, the last scene, of course, with Hunter and Crosshair in the cell and stuff, and that bit of a cliffhanger, I guess. And then thoughts, any predictions, any theories coming up in the next 3 episodes? That's all we've got left, just 3 episodes.
How dare you say Hunter's gonna die? I think it's gonna be Crosshair who passes away at the end, and I think it's gonna be another Star Wars thing because we see it all the time where you have the bad guy at the very last moment turn good and sacrifice himself. So that's what I think is gonna end up with Crosshair. I think possibly like his chip probably is affected by getting, but it's not fully, and like at the last moment when they're trying to save Hunter or maybe even save Omega or save someone in the Bad Batch, he's gonna realize this is my brother or this is the like, and kind of like switch back to being good, and then die and sacrifice himself. I also kind of wanting to see a clone trooper versus stormtrooper thing. Like maybe like some of the clones realize, hey, we're being replaced. They want to get rid of us. And they kind of like start a rebellion, but the rebellion doesn't work. Like they lose, and that most of them get decimated. But I would kind of like to see that kind of like the start of, and there we only see the survivors like Gregor. So I think maybe possibly Hauser might pass away too. And kind of be part of that kind of like clones versus stormtrooper. This is my completely out there theory, but I think it'd be really cool to see on screen. I don't know if we have enough time. It might be if we get a season 2, like a season 2 thing, but I think that would be cool to see.
Yeah, definitely. And please, if you can give a ranking of the episode, and obviously it's definitely a more positive one than we had last week. But yeah, any overall kind of ranking of the episode, or if you want to, or where would you put it?
I'd probably put this at 7.5, 8, probably closer to 7.5, because I still have a lot of questions, but I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. It was so cool to see the Ralph McQuarrie like art of the stormtroopers. It was cool to hear the music, the artistry in these shows, even in the last episode, which was not our favorite, like just the artistry is always so good. The lighting, the just the animation in general. So I'm thoroughly enjoying this series. I'm gonna be sad when it ends. I really hope there's a season 2 or just a announcement of another series with some of these characters in it. But yeah, that's why.
Yeah, I agree. Pretty much everything that you said there. Like, yes, Pixar level quality at times. This show is. In terms of the graphics, animation, that kind of thing. Yeah. The music as well. I like this episode, with callbacks from the original trilogy. And yeah, definitely a forward step in terms of the story. But big things to do to tie up in the last 3 episodes. In terms of other characters, other things, seasons, I'm not sure if there'll be another season of the Bad Batch. I'd like to think there would be. But, some of these characters might appear in other series like The Mandalorian, like Book of Boba Fett. Maybe Cassian, it's in that time frame, so that kind of thing. So we'll see. I'd give it the same 7.5. Yeah, 7.5. I think that's fair. Good episode. I'd probably put it in the middle somewhere of the overall series. But yeah, it was nice nice change from last week. Definitely back to form, and going into the last 3. Big things expected.
Much longer review. We liked it a lot more.
Exactly. It was like, yeah, it was nothing much happened last week. Yeah, let's finish it. But yeah, no, definitely good episode. Back to form. Can't wait for next week. We're going to do our review, of course. Please like, comment, subscribe on the video. Look out for our other views, trailer reactions, and everything else in between as well. So thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you all next week on the Pop Culture Universe, breaking down the Bad Batch every week for you.